I arrived at Frost Creek believing stories were smaller than lives, and that snow could be crossed if one kept walking. Eliza Merrow stood beside the stagecoach, 24 years gathered into a thin blue coat, her breath trembling like a secret she could not keep. The town watched the way men watch weather, measuring trouble before it speaks. No groom came. No letter followed. Only the wind answered, needling her cheeks until they burned. Mrs. Dalloway leaned from the inn door, eyes sharp with inventory, whispering that a girl without a claim belonged nowhere. Eliza stepped inside, boots leaving small puddles of melt that embarrassed her. The room smelled of soap and boiled coffee, warmth rationed like mercy. She asked once, quietly, whether her husband had come. Silence answered first, then a cough, then the practiced kindness of refusal. Mrs. Dalloway said names were mistaken sometimes, as if love were a parcel lost in transit. From the corner, Sheriff Amos Pike studied Eliza with lawman's eyes, already writing her into trouble. He suggested she move along, said Frost Creek was no place for unanswered women. The word unanswered followed her like a bell rung too late. Outside, snow began again, soft as apology, then sharpened, needling skin and thought. Eliza counted her coins, counted her breaths, counted the ways a person might disappear without leaving a mark. She chose the road because stillness felt like consent. The storm gathered, its voice rising until the town vanished behind white. When her knees gave, the ground felt kind, cool, and final. She whispered, not to God but to the dark, "Please don't leave me," and the words fogged and fell back upon her. I remember thinking the snow already knew her name. Caleb Harlan came out of that knowing, a shape the storm respected. He was feared in Frost Creek, a man rumored sharp as winter, rich from fur and land, solitary as a peak. He did not speak when he lifted her, only wrapped her in a weight of warmth and intention. His cabin waited uphill, smoke stitching sky to earth. Inside, fire wrote its slow language across stone. Caleb set water to boil, set boots by the hearth, set a boundary of care that asked nothing. Eliza woke to the sound of breathing not her own, steady as a clock she had never owned. Days found their order, without promises. Caleb spoke little, but his hands explained themselves. Mending a tear, stirring broth, placing a cup where it could be reached. Eliza learned the cabin's manners, the way light slid through frost, the courtesy of silence. She learned that fear could be mistaken for solitude, and that a man might choose quiet not to hide but to keep. At night the storm pressed close, and Caleb fed the fire, not as a guard but as a witness. When the worst passed, Eliza stood again, steady by soup and sleep. She thanked him once, the word small and insufficient. Caleb nodded. As if gratitude were a bridge he crossed daily. He did not ask her story, and in that refusal she felt seen. Outside, Frost Creek lay below, watching. The cabin held its breath, a pause in a life that had been hurried elsewhere. Eliza understood then the conflict was not the storm, nor the town, but the choice between being sent away and being allowed to remain. As night settled, snow quieted, and the fire thinned to coals, she slept, knowing the morning would ask something of her, and that curiosity had carried her this far. She dreamed of roads folding back into themselves, of doors opening without hands. Dawn came pale and undecided, laying a thin promise across the window. Caleb rose before light, boots whispering apologies to the floor. Eliza watched him, learning the grammar of safety by repetition. When he left to check traps, she stood at the door, the cold touching her face like a question. Frost Creek waited, she knew, with its ledgers and looks. The thought no longer bent her. She returned to the fire, fed it as she had seen, practicing care as a skill. By noon the sky cleared, revealing distances she had not believed in. Caleb came back, snow on his shoulders, eyes gentled by relief. He placed pelts to dry, then set a loaf on the table. They ate without hurry, the day holding them in its palm. A knock did not come. Yet Eliza felt it anyway, the imagined claim of the town. She met Caleb's gaze, finding there no command, only room. The decision shaped itself like breath. She would stay until staying was hers. Outside, the path softened, and the mountain kept its counsel. The story paused, listening, as if winter itself had leaned closer. curious what she might choose next. The silence answered by staying warm, by learning the weight of her name. She gathered courage the way kindling is gathered, piece by patient piece. Night would return and with it questions, but for now there was shelter and a man who made no demand. The snow kept falling, gentle again, as if it had forgiven them. I held the moment, knowing it would open into something larger, that the door left ajar would soon be crossed. Curiosity remained, bright and awake, asking not for answers yet, only for courage enough. Happy and satisfying end came slowly, like light learning the shape of a room. Eliza stayed through days that tested her resolve, through nights when the mountain groaned and the past tried to speak. Caleb never asked her to choose him, and that restraint became the truest invitation. He showed her how to read weather in clouds, how to mend a tear so it vanished into usefulness, how wealth could be quiet and still generous. In his presence, she learned that safety was not the absence of fear, but the patience to sit beside it until it softened. Frost Creek did not forget her. Word traveled uphill with the stubbornness of smoke, and soon the sheriff came, boots heavy with purpose. Amos Pike stood in the doorway as if law could warm itself by another man's fire. He spoke of impropriety, of the town's concern, of order. Caleb listened without interruption. His calmest surface no accusation could crack. Eliza felt the old heat of shame rise, then pass. She stepped forward, voice steady, and claimed her place as chosen rather than kept. The sheriff left with his warnings folded small, the door closing on authority that had nothing to offer her. After that, the mountain seemed to loosen its hold. Snow thinned, revealing the brown patience of earth beneath. Eliza worked beside Caleb, her hands growing certain. She found herself laughing once, surprised by the sound, and Caleb smiled as if he had been waiting for it to arrive. Their bond formed in tasks completed together, in glances shared when words would have been excess. He trusted her with the accounts, with decisions that shaped the cabin's future. She trusted him with her silence, knowing it would be held without demand. When they walked into Frost Creek together, spring followed like a witness. Heads turned, but the looks faltered, finding no scandal to fasten upon. Eliza stood taller than memory allowed. Mrs. Dalloway offered bread without comment. The town's judgment softened into curiosity, then into the begrudging respect reserved for those who endure. Caleb's wealth, once rumor, now read as responsibility. He paid debts quietly, repaired a bridge, left no spectacle. The mountain man became visible as a neighbor and Eliza as herself. They married without ceremony, choosing vows spoken to the sky and the land that had tested them. No preacher was needed to bless what had been earned. Eliza wore a dress mended by her own hands, and Caleb's promise was the same calm he had always given. The cabin filled with light that stayed. They worked, rested, argued gently, learned the shape of joy that fits a life. When storms returned, they faced them together, fire tended, doors secured, laughter practiced as a craft. Years later, when the snow came thick again, I visited and saw the proof of what quiet courage builds. Eliza moved through the rooms with assurance. Her name settled in her mouth like a truth long known. Caleb watched her with the contentment of a man who chose once and chose well. Frost Creek spoke of them now with a softened tongue, stories trimmed of cruelty, pride replacing judgment. Children played near the path, unafraid of the mountain, learning early that fear often misnames what it does not understand. The end, if it can be called that, arrived as an ordinary morning. Sun lifted over the ridge. Smoke rose faithful from the chimney, and Eliza stood at the door, breathing in a life she had made. She did not ask the world to keep her. She belonged by her own consent. If there is a lesson worth carrying, it is this. Dignity grows where patience is planted, and love, when unforced, finds its truest voice. The snow remembers everything, but it also knows when to melt,